Also have with us here on the story defense attorney Bob Bianchi, psychiatrist Dr. Gail Saltz, also with his former prosecutor Wendy Murphy. Bob, as you're listening to this and we see and we hear about what Taylor Swift was like in court, she was adamant and even saying at one point, I'm not changing my story. My answer won't change because I've never changed anything. I've never changed anything I said. If you are asking her those questions and she's your witness, how are you feeling about that?
If I'm asking the questions against her?
If you are Mueller's attorney right now and asking her these questions, she was saying, you're not putting me in the box you want to put me in.
Yeah, she's doing a phenomenal job. She's consistent. She's a little edgy, which you would expect for somebody who has a point to make. She's very resolute in what she is saying. She's consistent with all of the facts. This is a nightmare for cross-examination of her. And you have to also ask, what is the motive? Motive is the most important thing here. The thousands of people she meets and all these photo shoots, right afterwards, she complains about this, what we call fresh complaint in the law. She immediately, reactionary, goes to somebody and says, this happened. And you know what? Her statement about, I didn't know what to do and thank him, this is really a common thing you see in court scenarios with people who are abused. It's an accommodation aspect. So I think from all high notes for her, she did a phenomenal job. And what I really made specific note, Erica, that I think is most important when we get to motive is what motive does she have? Zero. What motive does he have? He said something that I think that the lawyer for Taylor Swift is going to really take to school with the jury when he said he was upset that she wasn't paying attention to him and was paying more attention to the girlfriend. And if you look at that photo, there's kind of a little bit of a creepy look on him, and he got her attention. That's what I'd be arguing.
Real quickly, before we take a quick break, Bob, when you're looking at this jury, one of the things that we often talk about, though, is how well jurors do in terms of putting aside any personal bias, any past personal experience when they're looking at allegations of this nature, or frankly, any case.
My experience has been that jurors actually follow the instructions of the judge when they're supposed to be fair and impartial. But of course, we all accept and receive. As a lawyer, I know my jurors are receiving evidence in the lens of their background and who they are as people. And actually, Wendy would attest to this, and myself as a former sex crimes homicide prosecutor, that sex assault prosecutor, that sometimes you actually see women who will be more critical of a woman victim depending on the circumstances, just like Wendy said. So I give credit to the jurors that they will be fair and impartial.
So he's talking about what happened in the days thereafter his termination, which we know he filed suit 2 years later and said, I am blaming this on the allegations that Taylor Swift made. As you're looking at this, Bob, and we're looking at what he says up there on the stand, who he called, what he said to them, why is that so important in terms of proving his point that it was the allegation that led to his termination?
Well, he wants to try to say that I'm not just looking for money, that this is the reason why it happened, that this was a false claim. I was fired. I can't get business again. I can't get back into the entertainment field, and therefore I've been damaged by the false accusation that Taylor Swift made. And of course, it's all premised on the fact that that story is true, which it seems from this particular case, again, he seems to change the motive at trial when he says the reason he was really kind of upset, he was agitated, he was angry. I'm a radio personality, and I come up to her on this line, and she doesn't show me any respect. In fact, she showed my girlfriend more attention than she showed me. He kind of contradicted what he was saying in his testimony from one place to another, and I think the jury's going to see that loud and clear.
Bob, as we've listened to his testimony, how did he do in terms of making his case? He's saying, this is my side of the story, and the photo shows it.
I don't think he did a good job at all. We always talk about in the criminal law, but it also applies in civil, motive, means, and opportunity. He has the motive because he testified, which we never knew before, that he was angry. He had the means because he gives a photo that he actually uses to show his hand is in a very unusual place and consistent with the story that she is telling. And he had the opportunity and the motive put together, so I don't think he did well at all in his testimony. And I think that the jury is looking at him, and they're looking at this particular situation and everything that he said, and he did not do himself any favors with regard to his defense.
Bob Bianchi, I want to bring you in on this because as we continue to hear the phrase sexual assault, it brings up the question, even without this being a criminal case, in the state of Colorado, and in most places in this country, is grabbing someone's backside without their consent, is that considered a sexual assault?
Any unwanted or unprivileged touching of an intimate or private part of a person's body is a crime, is a sexual assault. They're graded. There's various degrees of grading. I won't get into the graphic nature of it, but this clearly would be a criminal offense and something that could have been prosecuted had she wanted to go that route and go to police and prosecutors and have it handled both as a criminal case and a civil case.